Okay, this is my reaction to Digimon Adventure Tri, the PV video. As people know who've seen it so far, we now have a release date. We have some shots of what the series might be about. We got a little bit of answers solved, but not many. So I want to keep this as short as possible because I don't want to take up most of your day. So here's what I've seen through the promotional trailer. We got to see the animation, of course, in action instead of just being promotional art. We got to see the actual video, the characters in motion, which looks pretty sweet. It's different than what we've seen in Digimon, and I have to say it's pretty good so far. I'm really glad that they took this direction with the visual art because it when it compares to the Digimon compared to the characters themselves, when it compares to the humans is a completely different look. But when compared to the Digimon is still the same. There's not much of a chain there. Um, chains are not chain. I said chain, but ignore me. But moving on. Also, we got some dialogue to an extent. Not much, but some dialogue, and I apologize my computer's shaking. We got some dialogue from Tai to Agumon saying that this reality shouldn't be right. And it kind of confirms what I've been kind of thinking, and I haven't voiced it because I haven't voiced it as much as I would like to, purely because I don't like writing out big thoughts like that because I'll go on and on and on and on, and it'll just be like a bunch of drabble. So, what my thoughts have been kind of thinking, the way that the arc has always presented itself to me, and the way that it kind of feels to me, is that it seems very dreamlike. Like it's dreamlike or alternate. Yeah, I don't know. It's felt like there is going to be alternate realities involved. It's felt like it was this dreamlike sequence that is different than what it should be. That is the kind of thinking I've had since I first saw the dream art, since I first saw like the silhouette arc, since I first saw the official arc with the Digidestined through the sky and everything. It's kind of confirmed what I've been thinking. So maybe that they're going to be dealing with an alternate reality that's happening because of a particular Digimon. I don't know. This is pure speculation on my point, but I'm hoping that it is. I'm hoping that it is because then it'll present us instead of the thing that we're kind of getting used to seeing, or that we think we're going to see. The idea of this was we're going to see a story that happens in between the epilogue we saw in Digimon Adventure 02 and Digimon Adventure 02 where we ended it. We're seeing what happens in between that. Now what I'm hoping is that it certainly isn't that, because if it is, then we're just going to see what we already know. That pretty much everybody lives, nothing bad happens to any of their Digimon, and that they're all going to make it through this eventually. That would make for a change that would not necessarily be good for the airing of the franchise. Is that we'd all know that this is going to end well. We don't know that because they haven't told us anything about this yet. The idea of it possibly being an alternate reality makes the idea of this much, 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 much greater. Is because they can open up to lots of different possibilities. So I'm looking forward to that. The idea that this might be is that well, not the idea. The fact that this is going to be a 6 theatrical part series kind of parallels to what Gundam Unicorn did. And what Gundam Unicorn did was they did an episodic movie saga that they did. I'm not really sure how many they did off the top of my head. I believe they did 6, but I could be wrong, and they could have done 8. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But by doing this, it allows them to do lots of storylines. It allows them to build upon smaller storylines and make them gradually bigger. And I like the idea of this. I just hope they don't drag it on for years like they did with Unicorn. Because what Unicorn did was torture their fans for several years in between each movie. Because what the original release date was, we were supposed to have something as of the 22nd of April. We all know that's not true. And what we got was like a couple weeks after April ended, we got the promotional video that came out today. So, what I'm hoping is that each one is incredibly detailed. We can put some plot holes to bed, which is what I'm really, really hoping for. Most of the plot holes are what most of the fans have been wanting to hear about. Mainly being, I'm going to start with the ships because the ships are what everybody cares about. Let's be honest. The ships are what everybody seems to care about. And the big ship that I want to start with is the love triangle between Tai, Sora, and Matt, which ended up being Matt and Sora. Now, in both the Japanese dub and the English dub, that ship happened out of nowhere. Nobody was prepared for it. Nobody saw it coming. It just kind of appeared. And according to the creators who posted something a while ago, I don't know how long ago it was a while ago, is that was the original plan. My response to that was, if that was the original plan, why didn't they have the content and the idea to go with that? And that is why some fans, especially me, I have been most vocal against Matt and Sora because it made no sense. It made absolutely no sense, and it just happened. Why do a ship that makes no sense if that was going to happen from the beginning? And most importantly, the thing that really ticked a lot of people off was that they gave us all this content that leaned toward not Matt and Sora, but Tai and Sora, only to say, screw you, we're doing this instead. That's what it felt like. It felt like that over 10 years ago to the day. That's what it felt like. Screw you, we're doing this instead. This is what we want. This is our OTP. You guys are getting crap. That's what happened. And especially since they based an entire OVA around Tai and Sora's feelings for each other. They based that entire OVA from our wargame around those two. And only to not do it. And that, most importantly, that was after Digimon Adventure ended. And when you do something like that after Digimon Adventure ends, and that's leaning towards the future, and they're being written out, not really written out of the series, but their characters are not the focal point anymore, where you can start applying to their future. Where you had the opportunity to swing that way, and you swung in a different direction for what was apparently no reason. So, hopefully, we get the content from Matt and Sora, or they do what I've been personally dreading. Because as vocal as I've been about Matt and Sora, as vocal as I've been against that, I don't want them to change the original idea now. Because it's been over 10 years. It's been about 15 years since they decided to do that in the first place. I'd rather stick with that original line of thinking, the idea that this was going to end up like this, and keep it that way, versus let's change it because everybody got in a hissy fit about it. And I'm one of those hissy fitters. I'd rather them not change it and just give us the content to go with it versus changing it. Because changing it is just satisfying the people who were ticked off about it originally. That was 15 years ago. people have gotten over it. They've grown to accept it. And if they haven't, well, screw them. This isn't the story that they wanted to tell. This is the creator's story. Let's keep it with what they wanted, and let's just build upon what they wanted to begin with. Because yes, in a perfect world, Tai and Sora is what I would want. But I don't want it changed because I want it changed. I want Matt and Sora to make sense so I can care about these two rather than just have it thrown in my face and say, this is what you're getting. I want it to make sense. I don't want it to just exist because it exists. Because, honestly, we look into their future, and Matt and Sora have kids. We don't know if they're still together. We don't. But they have kids. They loved each other enough to have kids. And that really swayed me versus just having them change, because these two kids already exist. They have children. They look happy, even though Matt presumably spends all of his time in space, because you have to know he was gone for a long time if he's flying to Mars or wherever it is he went. But that's besides the point. Another ship I wanted to talk about was TK and Kari. People know I'm vocal about TK and Kari as well as being the ship that should have sailed but didn't. Why? Why didn't it happen? By all means, this ship should have happened. Digimon did this with the two ships I'm talking about, Matt and Sora and TK and Kari, except both of them had different opposites for what happened. Matt and Sora was one we didn't see coming. TK and Kari, or Hikari and Takeru, are two ships we saw coming, but one happened and one didn't. Why did that happen? We never got an explanation. We never really got the idea. We can speculate, but we can't really get a definitive answer. So, what I would want out of the Hikari/Kari/TK and Takeru ship is why this didn't happen, or if you're going to change it, and I'm praying to God that you don't, if you change it, make sure it makes sense. Don't just put it there because people want it there. Oh. And then there is the idealism that this is an alternate reality. Because if it is an alternate reality, we're going to see some changes. We're going to see things we thought were happening and things we don't. And that's what's been scaring me personally the most. People know me that Digimon is my fandom. Digimon is my Star Trek. Digimon is like my religion. It is the thing I know more about than anything else in the world. And the adventure series, both 01 and 02, were my favorites. My personal favorites. While everybody was going nuts over Pokemon in the late 90s, I was going nuts over Digimon in the closet, keeping it to myself. Yes, you can make Darian was in the closet jokes all you want. All in all, I really just want is that if the epilogue at 02 was the epilogue, that's what they want to happen, let it happen. If you're going to create an alternate universe, specifically state it. State that this is an alternate universe and is heading in a different direction than the one we saw. Because then there's that universe and then there's this one. Or if you're going to have like a time travel thing where something got averted, do that, and then that will make the change valid. And then I'm going to address one of the last things, which was the Omnimon versus Alphamon fight. That fight is something that I guarantee you, as much speculation as there was before the series, not a soul saw that coming. Not a soul. Nobody saw Alphamon versus Omnimon coming. Now, looking at this, we've seen Alphamon versus Omnimon multiple times in the Digimon series. I think it's because they're polar opposites. It might be that kind of thing, but it's also ironic because they're comrades in the Royal Knights. And when you're comrades like that, you don't expect them to fight. Digimon Digital X Evolution, whichever movie you want to call it, is probably the best basis for it, but also you have Digimon Chronicles going off of it, in which you had Omnimon / Omegamon X being the partner of Yuji, I believe his name is, in that manga, and then Doraemon being the partner of Kota in that manga. They eventually fight and come to blows, and it's been like a significant thing. Because in Digital X Evolution, which is what that was based off of, apparently, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense, what that was based off of was Alphamon. What is that? Alphamon was Doraemon, and he had to gradually build himself back up to Alphamon due to some accident or incident. I'm not sure. For people who don't know about Doraemon and the line of Alphamon, is that Alphamon is the aloof seat of the Royal Knights. And being the not the aloof seat, the empty seat, as it's been referred, and the aloof hermit, meaning he's never there. Alphamon is never there unless a true crisis is going down. And one of the things about the Royal Knights that translates from the card game is that the Royal Knights will come together to save the digital world in its biggest crisis. In that, what has really been the thing that's really kind of bugged me since seeing the video is that Alphamon is never around. And now we have the appearance of one of the first and only X-Digimon in the actual digital world. We've never seen an X-Evolution Digimon in any Digimon series, period. Not one. Not a natural, not even a natural. We have not seen an X-Digimon ever on digital, on television, or in any anime. We have not seen one. Besides Digital X Evolution, which doesn't really count. I don't count that. That doesn't matter. And even though I don't count that, you can argue with me, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah, whatever. The fight between Omnimon and Omegamon is that in each case before this, Omnimon has been the villain. Alphamon has been the guy to cool him down. And we have to assume that Alphamon is the villain in this because we know which side the Digidestin are on. We know they fight for the righteousness. They fight for peace between the digital world and the human. So why are Alphamon and Omnimon, when they presumably go for the same goal, why are they fighting each other? Why? That is the question we're going to be asking ourselves until November 21st, Japan time, when that first theatrical film hits. Maybe that answer might be solved, maybe it won't be. Some other closing comments is that when I mentioned plot holes, there are two major ones. One that's not so big that I don't really think they're ever going to address ever is the Dragomon storyline that was dropped. People remember this one episode, which ironically is going to base upon the plot of Kari and TK in general, is an episode, I believe it's 12 or 13. It's called His Master's Voice, I believe, in which the Kari goes to the Dark Ocean. She goes to the Dark Ocean, and she's kidnapped there. She's vanished there. And these Divermon are going nuts. And these Divermon are going nuts because this evil master guy has enslaved them, blah, 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 blah. At first glance, we thought it was Ken. They did have on dark rings. Kari takes them off and they start treating her like the Digimon Queen, like she used to be in the Digimon Adventure. We never see that part of them again. The Divermon go nuts again, try to keep Kari there. And Angelomon and Pegasusmon show up, and that entire thing gets shut down. Yeah, I know Megadramon showed up, but he's not important. But then after that, up comes Digimon Cthulhu from the sea, aka Dragomon, and we never hear from him again. We never see him again. We never hear nor mention of him again. And we go back to the Digital Ocean one other time in person, and then we send Daemon back there again. Hopefully that gets solved, because if that's true, and Dragomon's as powerful as he appeared to be, we sent Daemon to a place where he can get an ally. Which brings me to another one. Daemon. Daemon is one of the 7 great demon lords. And quite iconically, if you really want to go there, probably one of the most powerful. And the Daemon we see is Daemon in his hooded form, which is the least powerful, but still a powerful form. It's still a powerful form because Daemon tossed around Shakumon, Sylphimon, and Imperial Digimon Fighter Mode throughout the entirety of the Daemon core storyline. He tossed them around. He threw them like ragdolls. Dolls. I'm sorry, I can't enunciate right now. He throws them around like ragdolls, and by all means, he kicked the crap out of them. Then Davis, Ken, and them send him to the Dark Ocean, thus quelling Ken's demons forever. Daemon's still around. He's still alive and kicking, and we have no clue where he went. We don't know if he's still there. We don't know if he's even going to be involved in this movie. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Next thing. Will the 02 Digidestined be involved in this series? I, for one, will be really disappointed if they're not involved. Every indication they've given up to this point means that they will not be. And that will be a shame. It'll be a massive shame because you base an entire storyline around these two. Or not around these two. Around that group of Digidestined. Yeah, Kari and TK joined them. However irrelevant they both individually were throughout the entire movie. Well, not the entire movie, the entire series. As irrelevant as they were still relevant and they were still involved. But they were not involved as the new kids were. They weren't as involved. I don't know if their introduction into this storyline was somehow to make up for that, but I'm praying that we do not cut those children out because they're just as important as they were. Also, you had a worldwide network of Digidestined who are sitting in the human world not being used, while the Japanese Digidestined, the original 8, are being used over them. Now, if you want to send the original 8 to the digital world, while the rest of them stay there, state that. We don't want to hear that these guys don't matter anymore. Because it would mean that 02 was its own story. It would mean that 02 is his own story, but it would also mean that they aren't important anymore. And that would be a shame. The final thing I want to touch upon, which is probably the most important thing, and the most forgotten thing at the time, is the original Digidestined. Or as I believe the internet, or what I'm going to spark the term now, the Lost Digidestined. Who are they? We know nothing about them. All we know is that they were the original ones that sent Apocalypse past the firewall. Locked him behind it, beat him the first time he came through, and that's it. We never hear about those 5 Digidestined again. Well, we assume there's 5. We actually don't know how many there were. We see a silhouette, but those silhouettes were initially the original Digidestined, their silhouettes, and they just threw them in there. But we know nothing about those original 5 Digidestined. We know nothing. Those Digidestined have been a mystery since 01, since Digimon Adventure premiered for the first time and ended. That's been a mystery for over 15 years. 15 years that has not been solved. So what I'm hoping is that we get some closure, we find out who those Digidestinate were, if they still exist, and if they still exist, where were they, and where have they been during these world crises that have been plaguing the world the entire time since the original Digidestinate, since they first appeared, and then the original Digidestinate's appearance first. Also, one more thing that just occurred to me, that Digimon were revealed to the world, and that eventually we live in a world where every human has their own Digimon partner. Is that going to come into play? Because that's repercussions that have long-lasting repercussions forever. Digimon appeared across the globe, in front of people. People saw them. People saw them on the air. They were aired all over the planet. Yes, Jedi got rid of the information, but it doesn't change the fact that people saw them. It doesn't change the fact that they were seen. And just because you got rid of all the data you had does not mean that that's just going to go away. So, will the humans get involved again, try to destroy the digital world, yada, yada, yada? I'm not sure. But I want to hear the repercussions of that too. Because I don't think for 1 second that Ty and the other kids are just able to walk around with Agumon in public anymore. We saw an inkling of that in Diaboromon Strikes Back, where they're running throughout Tokyo with their Digimon. Their Digimon... Also, the Diaboromon incident in the harbor with Armageddon. That was seen by people. Yeah, they were mostly kids, but at the same point, it happened over the internet again. And all these... I don't think they were called Kuromon, but I think they were called Kamika. I think they're Kuromon, I'm not really sure. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now. But they went throughout an entire city, and they were seen. Again, the government's not just going to ignore that over and over and over again. At some point, it's going to come to an end. So I hope that is a factor in the series. Because we eventually ended up in a world where everybody had their own Digimon partner, and they were eventually at peace. But we need to put all these overlying plot points to bed. Okay, so that's my promotional video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stuck with me. I apologize if my eyes are weird and I'm looking up all the time, but this is kind of how I use my thought process during it. I hope you enjoyed it. I apologize if the audio sucks. So, yeah, thanks for sitting in.